Just give us a snapshot of today, of where the industry is, what you think is interesting or important about what's being discussed, and sort of where the industry is right now.
Well, I mean, it's amazing when you talk about advanced advertising, quote unquote, right? It's something we've been talking about for at least 5 or 6 years, and really what's happening now is there's a quickening of pace and a more solid focus towards actionable items and activities and specific areas to focus on and to improve on. I mean, literally just 6 to 12 months ago, you couldn't have an intelligent conversation about how television and data truly work together, right? The idea of doing things like attribution for TV set-top box data from cable and satellite operators. The idea of even introducing a term like blockchain into programmatic advertising as a truth teller for all the players that are going to be active in both the buying and selling of advertising. I mean, these are all things that literally in the last year have gone from just general concepts to like truly actionable items that either have committees or groups or entities within various players in the marketplace, buyers, sellers, and everybody in between, working on and towards. And I think it's a matter of things truly starting to get at a faster pace and quicken. They've gone more from concept to real urgent issues to deal with.
We've also heard about sort of the big players and the big ecosystems. You had a really interesting conversation with Marcy and Jenks about Comcast. Google has made a big splash here, it seems, with some announcements and the presence by many of their executives. Tell us how sort of the landscape is changing with some of the big players.
Yeah, so you look at a Comcast, right? They're a big legacy player in lots of different toeholds in the television business, right? Whether it's the cable provision of such, the ownership of major networks in the NBCUniversal family, clearly through the last couple of years buying a bunch of interesting technologies, plural, to make those kinds of things all fit better together. Comcast is probably maybe the leading media company now with all those assets under one roof that is in an exquisite position to influence how the quote-unquote future of advertising on television and or video looks and feels and is shaped. You look at somebody like a Google, right? It starts from a completely different premise and a completely different starting point, being a pure play digital ad tech firm, and sees, like a lot of digital ad tech terms, big and small firms, wanting to get into the television industry in a big way, right? So as digital video becomes a real and solid thing, as connected TV and unbundling of cords and the like becomes more the more common, it's pretty clear that a lot of advertising in television, or what used to be known as television, looks and feels a lot more like what digital has been doing or could do. So there's probably nobody more expert than a Google to come in with that sort of sensibility and perhaps try to improve what television and or video advertising looks like. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, in some respects, a Comcast and a Google could be looked upon as sort of two warring titans for the future of TV advertising. But as Marcian said, and I think as some of their Google panelists also said, there's a bunch of collaboration there that's probably happening, right? And Comcast knows the pipes and television and that sort of business, and Google knows the technology and the ad tech type of stuff and digital. They both kind of need each other. And that's just, they're two parties amongst a ton of other companies. But to me, that's the exciting part of how the future of television advertising is evolving.
And Tim, finally, in terms of your consulting business, what do some of your clients want to solve? What are sort of top of mind for them?
So Vertere Group is basically consulting and advisory to firms big and small and or financial folks in between who are trying to figure each other out, right? So a big television network who's struggling with how do we become programmatic, how do we become addressable in our advertising, how do we incorporate data in our sales process, may need to look at startups and companies on the outside and new approaches to data and new approaches to ad sales and technology. Conversely, earlier stage firms, right, need to actually do the opposite. They're actually trying to get on the radars of some of these big media firms and get trial and buy-in and an understanding that they have maybe a better mousetrap for a particular part of the ad business. And you've got a ton of financial folks in between, private equity, venture capital, growth capital, you name it, who can benefit from significant vertical expertise in this very fast changing space with lots of little companies, lots of big companies all saying they can do multiple things, and there's a big cacophony out there. How do deals get done and how do parts get put together? That's what the investor community does. So Shake vigorously, and that's been sort of our model for the last 4 or 5 years, is helping connect and interpret depending on which side of the equation that they're coming from. And I think frankly, yeah, there's competition on a lot of different fronts, but the more you look at it, there's so much more cooperation and or harmony amongst some of these things that it kind of just requires some third parties sometimes to kind of say, you've got assets and opportunity, you've got assets and opportunity. You probably could benefit mutually by putting those together, and we spend more of our time having those kinds of conversations than we ever have before.